Well, it's Thursday evening, and we have just finished a very informative session with Stuart Pompel, who is the CEO of Pacific Crest, and he is also chair of the voting membership. It was called Advancing the Activity Through Sustain. Tell me again what it was called. Because there's so much involved in it.
Yeah, the general topic was advancing the activity, towards a sustainable future.
A sustainable future.
Right.
Why did you choose those words?
So we started back in September talking about, different topics that core directors and CEOs were worried about. Whether it be ballooning expenses, or maintaining things like props and sets, and things that sort of keep us up at night, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the escalating cost of running these very high quality productions.
And the very rapid evolution of the activity.
Absolutely, yeah. And so there was some discussion there in September, and we decided that it might be good to have these sort of sharing sessions at each meeting, or at least this one in January. Rick Valenzuela did a great job of helping to put the agenda together, and for me, it was easy kind of to step in because he had set up so much for me. But I was able to wield a little bit of influence on the topics for tonight.
Well, you talk about an eclectic mix of topics, everything from gender inclusivity and gender identity to props, safety, wellness, all of those things figured in tonight. And you didn't get it all in tonight. We're picking back up with more tomorrow, right?
Right, yeah. I was ambitious with 4 topics. But we ended up with 3. So the first topic was about core housing. And that's really important because when we go on to a high school campus, it's getting more and more difficult to find schools that want to have us there for a variety of reasons. And it's also getting more and more expensive. And this is not anything new. I mean, we've been talking about core housing and concerns for well over 20 years. And so it's just another opportunity for us to remind ourselves about the sensitivities and the facilities used and how we coexist, on campus, especially as school in California, school starts a little bit later. But where we are further towards the end of the tour, we are sometimes on campus at the time that school is in session. And it's amazing that there are principals and administrators that are willing to allow us to coexist on campus at the same time. We're all incredibly grateful for that. But we have to learn how to continually improve our processes to coexist in that situation.
Well, what else did you talk about tonight?
So the second topic we talked about was changing the competition administration structure. And that is around a proposal that is being sent out to, well, it was already sent out to all the voting membership and is now being sent out to the instructors who will be coming tomorrow for the instructors and judges seminars. And it has to do with reorganizing the way our Rules and Systems Task Force works and the artistic director and the judge administrator, and kind of refining and making it a more representative group. So I can't share too many of the details at this point, but it was presented tonight by the Competition and Performance Affairs Committee. It's a mouthful, but they have done amazing work. There's 11 drum corps represented on that committee, and they've done tremendous work under the leadership of Mike Scott from the Blue Coats over the past several months. So that was the second topic. The third topic we got into was diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are terms that are becoming more and more well-known and more discussed around the country. And it was a discussion around how we might better as organizations improve our processes of hiring and recruiting and board leadership in and around diversity of ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, et cetera, as well as equity and inclusion. And part of that discussion also included a little more of a deep dive into transgender, which is a little bit, it was not as a big topic before, but over the years has become a little bit more on our radar. And we're trying to get ahead of the curve on this and really understand more about how transgender students need to feel welcome and accepted and what we can do to help with that.
Well, what's left over to get to tomorrow?
I hope to get to a fourth topic that we weren't able to cover tonight. I'm calling it your business model. You have one, you just may not know it yet. And it's sort of related to the conversations that we had back in September about some of these ballooning expenses that we're very concerned about, and how do we manage and produce the best product that we can at the level of excellence that we all do, while at the same time being able to absorb the costs of doing that work. And so I'm hoping that we talk a little bit about our revenue mixes. Every one of us is subsidizing the experience. None of our members pay the full fare. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and have all of our organizations share their best practices. What do they do in their organization to fill that funding gap?
Let me put you on the spot. Is there a best practice that you use with Pacific Crest that you're going to share tomorrow?
We're very fortunate about our board of directors, and we started working on this concept of understanding our business model several years ago. And so we have a pretty good understanding of what our kids pay and what percentage of that is of the total and what our subsidy is. And then so once we understand on an annual basis what our funding gap is, we can then go through all of our revenue centers. For example, the show that we host at the Rose Bowl Stadium is a really big one, a very important one. And what that allows us to do is fill that funding gap. And even though these tuition and fees continue to rise, we try to hold them down as much as we can and subsidize that experience with these other revenue centers. Yeah.
Stuart, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Stuart Pompel. I'm Dan Potter for the DCI News Network. Hey, Dan Potter.
And Jeff Griffith with the DCI News Network.
From the rules proposals to the Drum Major Leadership Summit, we are covering it all at the Drum Corps International Winter Meetings.
Yeah, you can follow along on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, our website, dci.org.
Make sure you leave us your comments and join in the conversation.